Hello, my name is John Rose, and in this video I'd like to take a closer look at 6 factors that affect our behavior, and those would be our past moments, current moments, and 4 current status factors. And I'm also going to take a closer look at 4 factors that affect those 4 current status factors. And then I'm going to use those to explain why disease is such a mystery to so many of us. Well, once again, let's go back to those 6 factors. There are the past moments, and that's the sum of everything we've been exposed to, even including our genetics and our constitution, which, by the way, are 2 of the factors that affect these 4 current status factors, and I'll go into those in more detail. But that's part of our past moments. Everything we've done, everything we've learned, all of our teachers, all the books we've read, all the videos we've watched, everything we've experienced, understanding that experience is the best teacher. And then we have the darn current moment itself. Now this is what can get us in trouble, because every time we turn around, we have another current moment. Now, we have another chance to make another mistake. So that's part of why this is such a challenge. Because we have to understand that everything we do affects us, and then those effects are going to accumulate and be reflected in those 4 current status factors. And we have to understand that those 4 current status factors are going to change as conditions change, and they're all going to affect one another. And those 4 factors are our physical state, our mental state, our emotional state, and what I like to call our communal state, meaning that we are all one. And then we have 4 factors that affect those 4 current status factors. I already mentioned 2 of those. Those would be our genetics and our constitution. Well, we know what genetics are. That's the sperm and the egg we got from our parents. And a lot of our life depends upon the quality of those 2 items from our parents. And we inherit genetic weaknesses. And remember, even genetics has to do with lifestyle factors. That's the sum of all of our ancestors' lifestyle factors, which includes their environment over a long period of time. Another really important factor that affects these 4 current status factors is our constitution. Now this is what happened to us while we're in our mother's womb and on her tit if we were lucky enough. And a lot can go wrong at this point, and that was proven by Weston Price when he saw the white man come along and bring in the white flour and the white rice and the white sugar, and saw what he called prenatal nutritional injury within 1 generation of the mothers consuming this food while the baby was developing. So this explains a lot of why there's a uniqueness to disease. Remember, there's a oneness of disease based on our anatomical limitations, and then there's the uniqueness of disease that's going to be based on the damage that we either got inherited through genetics or our constitution, and most importantly, through our lifestyle choices. So those are 2 huge factors that determine our 4 current status factors, which in turn is going to determine our behavior. Another huge factor, of course, is the environment itself. That's our external metabolism. So there's the environment, and then there's all these ways we interact with our environment. And that would be our lifestyle choices. And there are 11 main ways I've listed that we interact with our environment, and the environment itself would make 12 essential needs. And again, the quality of our life is going to depend upon the quality of our choices. Now, where do genetics come into play relative to disease? Well, we inherit weaknesses, remember, and then disease is going to manifest based on our weaknesses. So genetics mostly determine how a disease will manifest, not if. The deciding factor in most cases is what are we doing? Now let's put things in perspective. If we inherit good genetics and have a good constitution, most of us are born with systems that can do like 10 times what they need to do. So let's use this as a basis to help us understand why disease varies from everyone. And remember, it's a mystery to us, mainly why? Because disease is a mystery to our so-called experts, and you can go to several videos where I go into this in more detail. Healing Secrets Revealed and Medicine is the Ultimate Tool of Control in the description box. I have links to those. So that's why disease is mainly a mystery, but it's also a mystery because we have organ systems that can do more than they need to do, and they can take a lot of abuse. So think of it this way. We've got good genetics, good constitution, We got systems that can do 10 times what they need to do. And let's just say that we don't see symptoms until we go below 100%. So we come in at 1,000, and we can abuse the body decade after decade after decade, and finally, in 5 decades or maybe 10 decades, depending on what we're doing, we might go below 100% and we start having symptoms. Now, why do people vary so much? Well, what if you come in with weak genetics or weak constitution? Instead of coming in at 1,000 10 times, we want to come in at 200 2 times. Now, instead of taking 5 years or 10, or instead of taking 2 decades or 10 decades, or 5 decades or 10 decades, 50 or 100 years before symptom manifest, it might happen in 2 decades. You might see it in 20 years. Why? Because we came in with a really weak system. Remember, it's mainly what we do that determines what we got. The genes are just going to determine where those symptoms manifest unless we come in below 100%, and that happens to some of us. So if we come in with really, really weak genes, we might come in at 50%, and we already have symptoms from the very get-go. So you can see how this can vary from one person to the other, and you think to yourself, well, why is this happening? And I'm eating the same food as my husband, and he doesn't get sick, but I do. Why is it? Well, a lot of it has to do with what did you inherit. And a lot has to do with what you're doing. Because even if you're consuming the same foods throughout the day, you might do it differently. One might eat it all in one meal, the other might spread out in 5 meals. The one thing I've noticed that I find quite interesting is that if you only eat one meal a day, you can get away with a lot of bad stuff because you're not making your body constantly process those foods. But this isn't the only reason why we're confused and why disease is such a mystery. Because we're only making 5 main mistakes relative to our diet that are causing hundreds of thousands of problems. And it's understandable why this is a mystery to people, because they think to themselves, how can these 5 mistakes be causing diabetes? I'm making those mistakes and I don't have diabetes. Or how can they cause this? I don't have this. Well, think of it like taking a drug. We all know that drugs come with side effects, don't we? If you've ever heard a commercial, it's mind-boggling that anybody would be willing to trade what they got for what you might get. And the way it works is you take this drug and you might have these 10 symptoms. 10% of the people get this, and 10% get this, and 10% get this. So we can understand how that works. Well, the same thing works with eating the wrong food. Not everyone's going to manifest the same symptom or all of the symptoms. Another reason why this can be confusing. And I always find it interesting when you look at the side effects of drugs, how many of them say flu-like symptoms? Every one of them, don't they? How can that be? It's because it's a poison. And that's what a cold and a flu is. It's the body dealing with its garbage and poison, whether it's self-generated or it's coming from outside. It's the same thing. So how can some people get away with things and other people not? Well, there is a uniqueness of disease. There's a oneness of disease based on our anatomical limitations we're given at birth, and some of us have been really limited. But then we have these anatomical limitations from the damage we've done. That's the key right there. That's the uniqueness of disease. We're all damaged a little bit differently. So we can have 2 people or 100 people all doing the same thing, and not everybody's going to manifest the same thing. And remember, none of this would be a mystery if our so-called experts weren't misdirected, and it was a mystery to them. So if you haven't watched these 2 videos I mentioned earlier, Healing Secrets Revealed and Medicine is the Ultimate Tool of Control, I highly recommend watching those so you can get a better idea of how the disease process works. Because once you understand how things work, then you'll be more motivated to apply what you know. And you know what happens when you apply what you know? You're in for a treat.